Most people think they know the Porsche 911. They've seen it in movies. They've seen it parked outside restaurants. They know it's expensive, and they know it's fast. They don't know the half of it. The 911 is simultaneously one of the most overrated cars on the planet, and one of the most underrated. Overrated because people buy it as a status symbol without understanding what they're sitting in. Underrated because the people who do understand it know they're driving something that has no business being road legal. This is the engineering story of how Porsche built a race car, put a license plate on it, and convinced governments around the world to let it drive next to school buses. Let's start with something that should have killed the 911 before it ever became famous. The engine is in the wrong place. In almost every performance car ever built, the engine sits either at the front or in the middle, behind the driver. Both placements keep the heaviest component near the car's center of gravity. Basic physics. It makes the car balanced, predictable, controllable. Porsche put the engine behind the rear axle, completely behind it, hanging off the back of the car like a rucksack. Every engineer who looked at this in 1963 said the same thing: it will oversteer. In a corner, the rear weight will swing wide. Drivers will lose control. People will die. They were right. In the early years, people did die. The 911 had a reputation for snap oversteer, a sudden, violent loss of rear grip that happened without warning and was almost impossible to catch if you didn't know it was coming. So Porsche had two options: move the engine, or engineer their way out of the problem entirely. They chose the harder option, and what they built over the next 6 decades is one of the greatest examples of sustained engineering obsession in automotive history. The first major fix came in 1969. Porsche widened the rear track and added weight to the front bumper. Crude but effective. It shifted the balance just enough to tame the worst behavior. Then came the real breakthrough. Engineers started to understand that the rear weight wasn't just a problem, it was a potential advantage. That mass over the rear wheels meant extraordinary traction in the wet, on cold roads, accelerating out of corners, situations where other sports cars with perfect theoretical weight distribution were sliding. The 911 was gripping. By the 1970s, Porsche began building on this deliberately. Wider rear tires. Suspension geometry tuned specifically around the rear-heavy layout. They stopped trying to make the 911 behave like a conventional sports car and started making it behave like itself. The result was a car that rewards understanding. Drive it wrong, and it will punish you. Drive it right, and it does things that feel physically impossible. Racing, drivers started noticing. In the wet conditions of endurance racing, Le Mans, Daytona, the Nürburgring, the 911 was consistently faster than cars that looked better on paper. Because grip in difficult conditions matters more than theoretical balance in perfect ones. Here's where it gets genuinely extraordinary. The Porsche 911 GT3 RS, the version you can walk into a dealership and buy, drive home, and use on public roads, produces 525 horsepower from a naturally aspirated 4.0-liter flat-six engine that revs to 9,000 revolutions per minute. 9,000 revolutions per minute. Formula One engines in the 1990s redlined at around 10,000. The GT3 RS engine note at full throttle is not a car sound. It is something closer to a fighter jet. Its active aerodynamic system, the DRS-style rear wing that opens and closes depending on speed and cornering load, was taken directly from racing. It produces so much downforce at high speed that the car is literally being pushed into the road by air pressure. It laps the Nürburgring Nordschleife, 20.8 kilometers of the most dangerous and demanding racetrack on Earth. in 6 minutes and 49 seconds. That is faster than purpose-built racing cars from 10 years ago. And then it drove home from the Nürburgring, on public roads. With a boot, you can actually put bags in. No other manufacturer does this. Ferrari's track weapons need to be trailered to circuits. Lamborghini's most extreme road cars are barely usable in daily conditions. The GT3 RS will sit in traffic, handle speed bumps, and then, when the road opens up, humiliate hypercars that cost 3 times the price. None of this happened by accident. The 911 was never allowed to get comfortable. In the early 1990s, Porsche nearly went bankrupt. Sales collapsed from 50,000 cars a year in America to under 4,000. A new CEO came in, cut costs brutally, and made one decision. The next 911 had to be the best ever made. No compromises. The result was the 993, the last air-cooled 911. To this day, considered by many the most beautiful version ever built. It saved the company. Every crisis made the car better. Every attempt to replace it failed. Overrated? Yes, most 911s are bought by people who will never use what they paid for. A base Carrera, driven to dinner twice a week, is a €130,000 car at 5% of its capability. The badge is doing more work than the engineering. Underrated? Absolutely. People who push a 911 to its limits report the same thing. It does more than it should. It handles conditions it has no right to handle. The 911 hides what it is until you need it, and when you need it, nothing else comes close. That's not a status symbol. That's 60 years of engineering that refused to compromise.